Welcome to the Making Weddings Work podcast with myself, Stuart, and my good friend Toby. Now, we're both independent wedding videographers with about 10 years experience each in the industry. So our goal is to interview, talk to, chat with the most successful brands in the industry and find out how they've been successful in growing and scaling their business and achieving the success that they've got today. In today's episode, we're going to talk to the world-renowned wedding photographer, John Nassari. John's had his work featured in the National Portrait Gallery, as well as Hello magazine. He's also got the coveted spot as being an Olympus visionary for the brand. He's even had one of his photos shot into outer space. John is firmly established in the luxury wedding market, and he's going to take us through his journey from beginnings in photography through to his more sort of mass market brand called Indigo, and then all the way up to how he discovered that he needed to rebrand himself as John Nassari to reach those 5-figure weddings, which is his typical mission today. So John, what's your general background? How did you even come into the wedding industry in the first place? Was it a planned move? Were you a photographer beforehand, or how did those things all come together?
Hi, thanks Stuart. Well, it's a long story to get to that bit because I started photography when I was 13. My stepfather gave me a Zenith EM for my birthday. It's a Russian camera, and he had this magical way of describing how it worked. And I just captured my imagination, and I got this understanding of aperture and shutter and that marriage, and started taking pictures. And at first it was like a roll of film. It would come through the post. We're talking 1983, and my mother, I remember spreading pictures out on a floor, and my mum's like, "Why did you take that shadow? Why?" And I was just sort of drawn to different, aesthetics and different sort of things that just were around me, the ordinary. And I had a dark room when I was 15, and that was my first time I won a competition. It was a local camera club, and that was basically a passion drove from then, as a teenager, that I wanted to be a photographer. I also wanted to be a pop star, but I gave that up quite quick because I spoke to my careers officer, and she's like, "Sing for me," and I sang for her, and she's like, "Have you got anything else you're interested in?" And I said, "Well, actually photography." And so she flipped through the book and said, "Well, there's a local college in Watford," and I went to Watford College, did a national diploma in photography in 1986, and then I did my HND in photography, and that's what really focused me on advertising, and I was interested in still life. So by the time I was 20, I had a still life portfolio, large format photography, 10 by 8, and I was specialising in studio lighting, not people, objects. And I enjoy now still thinking about that, and I still use those skills that I learned 30 years ago. And then when I left university, I still had an interest in education, so I began teaching. And so by 25, I was teaching photography, and I did an MA in visual culture. But my interest in what I was photographing started to change, so I became less interested in still life and became more interested in people. And there was a moment, actually, where it happened when I was working in a studio as an assistant in my early 20s, and this photographer I was working for, he said, "We've got," he's a Polaroid, these are days before digital, obviously, and he said, "Right, today we're photographing a missile from the Ministry of Defence." And I was like, "What do you mean, a missile?" He said, "Well, it's a missile. It's not armed, but we have to sign a thing and then take a declaration, and there's going to be a military police in the studio. But I'm out for the morning, so can you photograph it and get a Polaroids ready, light it? Think of it like a bottle of glass, like we shoot still life glasses all the time. It's just a massive sort of shiny surface." So this is like early 90s, and I set it all up, lit it, and I said to the military police, "How do I clean this? There's oil on it." And he said, "I don't know." And I got this chamois leather, and I was cleaning it. And in that moment, I remember thinking, we're photographing this missile, and we're trying to make it look good so we can sell the image to the Ministry of Defence, so it could go in a brochure maybe, so then maybe a state will buy it, or they use it, and it could kill someone or blow up a village. And I remember this moment where photography and its relationship with it's the end use of things, the distribution, it began to just really hit me at that point, you know, and years I'd be like, one day we might work on a fur campaign, the next day it's an anti-fur campaign, the next day it's a cigarette campaign. We just shoot anything. Your job's a job, you know, that's what their philosophy was, and it really I questioned it. And I came away and started to think, let's photograph people. So I became interested in portraiture by the late 90s. And so, you know, we're talking a long, long before weddings at this point. I was doing exhibitions, doing my art practice, doing my MA finished, and then my PhD. I'll talk about that later if you're interested. And then obviously the transition from analog to digital started happening in the early 2000s. And at that point, I was still shooting film. And the idea of shooting a wedding on film, I did it as gifts. So, you know, 95, 97, I remember 98. You know, and I would go with a couple rolls of film, and it'd be family and friends. And sometimes I'd get asked, would you do it? And I didn't want to charge, or I'd do it for 80 quid, 100 quid, a couple of rolls of film. So I had black and white mostly, contact sheets of stuff. And but by sort of mid-2000, by 2005, 2006, the technology was getting much better. The cameras were getting much better. The noise was the issue for me. And I invested in a digital camera. And in the early days, it was, you know, we're talking about 2004. I think it was like Canon 10D, you know. And I got a picture in the National Portrait Gallery. So it was the second time I'd got a picture in the National Portrait Gallery. The first time was film, the medium format, 1999, 2000, self-portrait of me and my father. And then this time, it was a digital picture, shot at night, and he got in. And I was like, and it was a big print too. And I was like, there's something in this that, you know, I've made this transition. I'm not earning really through the digital lens, but you know, I'm starting shooting more. And I got this picture in the NPG. And it was a moment where I thought, these cameras actually can do something here. So and it just came by chance how I got into weddings. So I was seeing myself as a portrait photographer, socially engaged photographer. At that point, I'd completed my PhD in refugee studies, and I'd worked in camps, photographing refugees in camps in Lebanon, in other places. You know, street photography was a passion. Like I said, portraits or portrait projects. And the idea of taking wedding photography, it's still at that point, I saw it as a traditional thing, you know, like as a job anyway, you know, that you'll be doing groups and cake and you know, that kind of thing. And a friend of mine, so it all came by chance, a friend of mine said he had a wedding photography business, and he'd retrained as a retoucher. And he said to me, look, I need a second shooter. And I said, well, I'm not a wedding photographer. And he said, it's not like that. You just do reportage. It's like, I was like, well, I could do that. He goes, yeah, just capture moments. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, that's what it is these days. So I went in with him and did this day's shoot with him. I couldn't believe it. And, you know, within like a week, I went to his website and some of my pictures were on his website. And I was like, and looking through, and I could see this reportage theme in his work. And I was like, blimey, you know. And I was thinking, I haven't been in camps and refugee camps, and the idea of projects, photography projects, which are intimate, where you would take time to get to know people, like a street. So say you go in a refugee camp, you can't just walk in a refugee camp and start photographing people. You need meetings, you need to trust. These things take time. Who are you? Where are these images going? And it's a different type of way of working, that kind of engaged documentary project. But here, I was struck by a wedding, was that you walk in and you are an intimate stranger. That's how I called it. That you'd go in and you'd be instantly able to photograph people, and they'd let you. You know, I could stand in someone's way during a speech, they'd let you. You know, not that I want to, because I want to stay agile and mobile, but you know, I could literally just stand there, just in one position, and no one would say, excuse me, you know, who are you? Why are you in my way? You know, there was this like sort of weird thing in a wedding that they just let you, it's an agreement that you can just be intimate and close, even though you don't know anybody. You're the only one that probably in that intimate room, in a suite, in the mornings, that, you know, you're that intimate stranger. And I was struck by the fact that this is like, strips away all the trust. You just instantly have trust, and you can do it. So I like that, and I like the fact that it followed a day that was familiar, and there was a beginning, middle, and end to it, and there was structure in it, but then there was also creativity and spaces for things that are different, things that happened which are different, but every time it's a different thing, even though it's the same. So and also the fees. I remember looking at his contract while we were driving, and I was flicking through, and I'm like, these are advertising fees. It was like 3,000 quid. And I was like really struck, because those sorts of fees I wasn't getting anymore. You know, back in the 90s, yes, but then by mid-2000, I wasn't getting, you know, in the small portrait projects or little things I was doing for the Arts Council or little PR shoots. It's normally 500 a day, that kind of thing. And I was like, wow, you know. So I just set it up. So I went through my rolls of film I told you about. I scanned images, and I set up a website, and I had about 80 pictures that I launched with.
So obviously you were maybe transitioning from, you know, doing lots of work, but you were already a professional photographer. What is it that, at what point was it you saw yourself as a wedding photographer, as a business? You know, what moment did you think this is actually a legitimate business?
So I was struggling with some of the other work I was doing in my academic life and my art projects, and I just felt that I needed a commercial release. I needed a new project to focus on. And having done that with my colleague Ian, who asked me to help him as a second shooter, and I had experienced this wedding, and then he asked me to do a couple more, you see. So I think I did about 3 or 4 with him, and I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And at that time also, I think it was, you know, I think I found out about the SWPP, the Society for Wedding and Portrait Photographers. It's like a kind of convention and club, and I went to this club, and it was all focused towards weddings, mostly with portraits and stuff, and there was education going on and other stuff. And I remember looking at the winners of these awards and thinking, it's quite sort of camera clubby, some of this. And I'd come out of advertising and then gone into art practice, then gone back into documentary, and then gone into weddings. And I was like, I really, you know, the stuff that I'd go to these seminars and listen, I'm thinking, you know, there's nothing I'm learning here. I know all this. And I just thought I can just launch really fast with a strategy, with an approach. I don't need training, I don't need skills in that area. You know, I can learn. Maybe I learned things, I think, you know, about selling and about the industry. But the photographic side, I felt really ready to just do it. So I transitioned into. So basically, I launched, and I thought, well, how do I get weddings? And I basically leaned on Google Ads. So I launched in September, and I got my first booking within 6 weeks. So I basically I think my budget was, I thought I'm going to spend 700 quid a month, and I'm going to do that for 3 months. So I thought, that's it. If it doesn't work, I give up. So that was what I thought. So I launched the website, and then I launched the Google Ads. And in those days, you know, I'd look at them. You end up like with something stupid like 10, I think it was £10 a day or something, you know, 10 clicks, you're gone. And I remember these people like saying that photographers clicking on photographers' links to get rid of them, and, you know, and I'd look on Google Analytics, you know, maybe too much at the beginning, and I'd be like, someone's clicked on that for 2 seconds. This is the sort of rival killing me, you know. And but, you know, it slipped through. I started getting inquiries, and I had my first wedding that year. So it was like a 3-month lead in. It was a Christmas wedding. And by the end of, and so and it was 1,000 quid, 2 shooters, CD back in the day, not USB. And I think it was 2008 at this point. So I'd launched in, then, although the wedding, I say 15 years, I just had a book published this year, and it's called Nassari 15, and it was really by 2015 I'd started shooting. You know, I had a lot of weddings on film, and then I started shooting other weddings, you know, like maybe 2 or 3 weddings a year on those digital cameras, but it wasn't a commercial strategy until maybe 2007, when it was more focused. You know, it was more like, oh, John could do weddings, you know, I don't have a website, but, you know, but 2007 it became a real commercial focus. And I'll come back to... Go on.
I was going to say, did you have like from the outset, did you have a plan of the sort of weddings you wanted to do, or the sort of style you wanted, or were you just taking, what came in? Had you already in your mind thought, I want to be sort of shooting that sort of thing? Because you mentioned repertoire, so were you already thinking you wanted to go down the route of not the traditional wedding photography type thing? Yeah.
Absolutely, I did. I was really pure, and especially having taught photography, taught for years. I've got I've got PGCE and I've got a PhD, taught in photography departments, degree departments. So for me, it was somehow I remember this rumour came out. It wasn't a rumour, it was true. But this woman rang me up as a colleague in my academic field, and I've got a PhD in refugee studies. I was chairing international conferences and stuff, and she rang me up and said, "I've heard this rumour. Is it true you're shooting weddings? You're a wedding photographer now, part time?" Because I'd still be an academic. In the first few years, I didn't leave academia to 2012. So although I launched the wedding business 2007, for 5 years, I was doing both, and that was a killer, because at one point it was 7 days a week for 2-3 years. It was awful. Imagine shooting 68 weddings while you've got a full-time job. And I remember thinking, and I kind of hesitated, as if it was a bad thing to be a wedding photographer, and I was like, well, it's reportage, I tell people story, these are celebratory days, I'm doing it at the weekends, and I remember thinking, it's not traditional, it's not cake cutting and then I go, it's a storytell. I don't talk to people that much because I'm just trying to capture stuff. The idea is I'm invisible, I'm innocuous, I'm candid. These were the phrases that you put on the website, that this is what our approach. And at one point, I had, I don't do groups. And I wrote that down as well. If you're looking for someone just to be a narrative storyteller, I've been in a National Portrait Gallery and stuff like this, then I'm your person, I'm your guy, So it was very clearly around that kind of approach that I took back in the early days. There's also something else which is interesting, is I when I launched, I didn't launch with my name. So I launched with a brand name that and it was conscious, and that wasn't like, what should I call myself? I had a short list, and one of them was John Nassari, but I had like 25 other names, and I chose Indigo Images. So I launched with a brand called Indigo Images, and the whole focus was we were a collective, we were an agency, we were like a documentary team. And I had a group of colleagues who I knew that were documentary photographers. One of them is still a brilliant photographer, and he gets commissioned by The Guardian. He did the Obama campaign for The Guardian when he went into power, before he went into power. And he's won an awards, the Observer Hodge Awards. He's a brilliant documentary photographer, so he'd be on my team. I taught him actually in the 90s. So I had a network through teaching. I had a network of young people, I say young, in the early 20s, who were passionate about documentary, who I then trained to just, not they needed training photographically, but they just needed training about for weddings, who were then documentary photographers in my team, and I had bios of them. So I had their picture and a bio. So it'd say, Indigo Images is founded by John Nassari, and it'd be a bit about me, and then it's like, and here's the team. And the idea was, if you booked Indigo, you're not booking John, you're booking an approach. You're booking a team, you're booking a style, and it doesn't matter if it's me or Jeremy or me or Guillaume or Katie. We all adhere to the same style which I've overarched and taught, and that was the approach.
And just to interrupt the conversation for a moment, to give a shout out to all the places where you can follow our journey on Making Weddings Work. So you can reach out to us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Spotify. So please get subscribing, get telling your friends, pass the podcast around. If you've got someone else that you know in the wedding industry that could benefit from the topics that we're covering, topics that we're going to talk about, the guests that we're going to have on, please let them know about us. Please spread that love and let other people become more successful with their wedding business. Now, let's jump straight back in to the conversation.
And yeah, and why? At what point did you decide, and why did you decide to make it more about you? Like your USP is now you. What made you go for that?
So, first of all, why did I do that? I did that because I thought I'd sell it. I thought I'd get to a point. If it's about me, I might struggle to sell it. Even though, of course, you know, the silly thing is the best global brands are named after people, you know. So that luxury thing, in the end I had to do it because I wanted to go luxury, and I wasn't thinking that at the beginning. And you know, you look at Dior, you know, all of the top fashion brands, and you know they're all named after a person, even if the person's dead. You know, the idea carries on. You know, but I set up Indigo, and in fact it's been running for many years. I'll come to what happened to it in a minute. But at one point, so going back to sales, so I did Google Ads. I had 13 weddings in year one. Then I carried on with Google Ads. Then year two, I had 23. So I increased a third into year two, and all Google Ads. And then I noticed a couple on year two were actually bookings, recommendations from year one. So that was starting to move, which was positive. That, you know, from a venue or a bridesmaid or something. It's, oh, you shot my friend's wedding. And then a key moment changed for me as I did a wedding fair. So I did the National Wedding Show in 2009, and I got 15 weddings from this one fair. I think all 2,000 each. So I got 30 grand, and it was 2 photographers, 10 hours on an album, 2,000 quid, or it was like 1950. It was, and I wasn't VAT registered either, because it's before, you know, that. And so I had, you know, some Google Ads, and then these focus wedding fair. And again, I think my past helped me in the presentation of the work. So I went to a fair before I did my fair, looked around, I'm like, these photographers, these stands are awful. They never exhibited before. You know, it's just like, you know, a little pop-up display thing with a book on a table. I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to rumble this. So the first show I did, I spoke to, I think it was Ocean Media, because they're still running it. And I said, I want to turn my shell into an art gallery. And they're like, well, what do you want to do? I said, I can't hang work off these bits of paper shells. You know, I need a boarded background. I need something solid for me to hang off. And they're like, well, we've never done anything like that before. I said, can I bring in something? No, you can't. I said, well, can you put me in touch with the production company? You know, of course, you know, there were big stands, you know, that had this sort of shiny stuff, but you know, the idea of like creating a physical strong wall. So basically they said, look, we looked into it, and we could create an MDF structure. And they didn't even have it on the price list then. I mean, then it's now it's a thing, you know. And I said, so I want an MDF structure, and I want to hang my work. I'm gonna drill in. I'm gonna hang my work. I'm gonna create an art space. And they're like, okay. So they charged me. They told me a figure. I was like, that's really expensive. And then I said, I need it painted. They said, you can't paint it. So they had to paint it. So it cost them even more. But then there I was. I turned up with a corner stand, which was solid wood, white. And then I was like, here's my art space. So then I had my drills and stuff, and I hung my work like an art gallery. Little captions, titles, and then I got a sofa, and then I had a coffee table, and it looked amazing. And loads of people were coming up talking about it, saying, I love what you've done in this stand. And I remember Errol Douglas, who's a celebrity luxury hairdresser. He was doing the hair for the catwalk in the fashion show, and he just stopped as he walked past. He was like, "Whoa, this is not a wedding photographer. This work's brilliant." And I had like really big prints as well, you know, like sort of 30 inches, and you know, in discrete, strong portraits and details and wides. Really thinking about storytelling of the work. Really classic black and white, and I was so proud of what it looked like. And I got, like you said, I got 15 bookings, but also I started meeting people. So I always like, we need to shoot together. This is amazing work. I've never seen anything like this in the industry. And and then obviously the next year they had MDF on the display on the price list. And then when I ordered it, I couldn't believe it. I ordered it. They gave me the same piece back. I'm like, these are my holes. They've not even filled it in. And I had to they charged them again. I was like, so cheeky. But then I started noticing I'd set something up that other photographers were doing the same thing, you know. And I think it's the thing. I've always felt that the experience I've had up to being weddings had helped me in weddings to display work, to how to shoot, you know, the lighting training I had, the teaching my team because I taught, the connections I had with young people, young photographers because of my teaching, all helped me. And I brought it all into weddings.
And is that why you moved over to like John Nassari as your brand then? Is that?
Yes. Yeah. So what happened was, it was Errol. So Errol Douglas saw my stand. He saw how elegant the exhibition was. Called it exhibition, you know. And he said we need to collaborate. And he said, I'll let you. I've got a business development manager, and he'll contact you. So James contacted me, and we had a meeting. He came to my Hackney studio, and I had refugee couples would come to my studio in Hackney, and I had this idea. It's like trendy. It was trendy. It was kind of edgy. It was urban. It's fascinating, this, and it really worked. I had massive prints of portraits of people, refugees in camps on the wall. People say, what's that? Oh, it's a refugee project I did. And, wow, you're so cool. Your work's really clever. I can't wait for you to photograph the wedding and stuff. And, you know, and I'd say, oh, Jeremy shoots Hasselblad. No, he shoots Leica. And then I'd say, get your kit out, show them, you know. So we had like different approaches, like, you know, Katie's on Canon. It's quite a power thing. But Jeremy's quiet, discreet. You won't even notice him. It's very, what do you want, you know, and this sort of documentary thing and his artwork and, you know, it was like sort of brick walls of the studio and stuff. And I had my team there, you know. And basically James came to it and he's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to move into luxury? And I'm like, yeah. He said, well, I think you're going to have to change two things. One, you're going to need to launch as your name. He said, if you look at all the top luxury brands, they're all named after the person. And I went through it and I thought, oh my God, suddenly the penny dropped. You know, when you look at the top perfumes, you know, Calvin Klein or whatever, you know, you just, you know, Gucci, you know, they're just named after a person.
So just touching on the team aspect, you've brought people in at the start while they're under your brand, and then now you've made this decision to go to a personal labelled brand. How did that work with? Are those people still working for you, but it's now under John Nassari, or what happened there in terms of sort of personnel wise?
Well, it was interesting. So I launched John Nassari brand in 2011, and it came through this collaboration with Errol Douglas and his business development manager, who said to me, you know, all the top luxury brands are named after individuals, and why aren't you doing that? And I told him my idea, and he said, well, if it's a great model, but, you know, if you look at, we were doing a collaboration, and he put it together, and I think it's one of the first style shoots, actually, 2011, that was, we call it style shoot, we didn't even call it then, we called it a luxury collaboration, and it started with Errol and me, so hairdresser and photographer, and then Errol's connections. We had Mandarin as our venue. Then we had Bruce Russell as the dress designer. And we had Neil Strain as the florist. So you can see all names of people. I mean, the Mandarin obviously is a group, you know, and that's understandable for the venue. But, you know, as we started to pull together all the different Theo Fennell for jewellery, you know, so as we started to bring together these top British brands, or brands in Britain, they were all named after people. And it was really Mandarin and me were the ones, you know, Indigo Images that stuck out. So I launched John Nassari to link with this collaboration, and we had a bride and groom, but it was but models, but then we also went so far to get actors. So, you know, I kept saying, I think if you want to do, you know, this idea of a shoot didn't make sense to me. So I was like, but it's not real, is it? So we ended up getting actors and had people playing dads, and that, you know, we had a ceremony and stuff, and you know, and we did this sort of like fake wedding, And also I did 360s, so I was launching the 360 stuff as well. Having done 360s in camps in 2007, 8, 9, I wanted to bring that into weddings. So I was proposing we do 360s as well. Each brand gets a 360, and then a little kind of showcase to talk about themselves. And we did video, so I had video team as well. And this is when I started to think about video and photography. And launched the John Nassari brand, and I used that project as a springboard for it, and it helped so many ways. Because then I started to go around town, people knew about the project, but then I let Indigo just carry on, but then I started to get bookings, and in the early days, Indigo was, I remember in 2010, I had 68 weddings at Indigo, and I probably shot 15 of them, and my team, I had full-time staff, 2 full-time staff, and they would basically, the leads would come in, I'd negotiate the price, they would then shoot it, I'd oversee it, they'd edit it, they're sitting in the studios. I didn't know half the people. It would come up on my diary, Annika's wedding. I was like, oh my God, Katie's shooting it, And then also there was this idea of like Bob Marley and the Wailers. So I'd have couples there, and they'd say, well, we want you. And I say, well, you can have me. You can have me, and I'm this. This is my price. But this is Indigo, pure documentary. Yeah, Nassari will do a bit sprinkle of gold dust. You have like a really lovely backlit shot. You have maybe a more advertising feel. But the true documentary themes of what I established is there in my team, Indigo. And look at that price. But, if you want John Nassari, then it's this price. And Indigo will probably support me, but I won't be on the Indigo shoot. And that's how it is. And I said it's Bob Marley and the Wailers. If you don't want Bob, you'd get the Wailers. But really, it's quite similar. If you just book the Wailers, it's a bit of Bob Marley and the Wailers. And they're like, okay. And some would do it, some wouldn't. And it was a great success, Indigo, actually, because it carried on. 50 weddings, 40 weddings, 30 weddings. 2013, I think we had 80 weddings.
80.
But 80, but it was like, it was a killer for them.
So on a like an average wedding shoot, what's the team you normally have? So if you're going to a wedding and someone's booking you, do they sometimes just book you, or is it normally like do you normally have other members of your team with you? And you mentioned video as well. Is it often like a package thing? Yeah. So these days, the whole narrative of the John Nassari brand has led towards that idea of luxury, high-end, high-scale, brilliant work under pressure, and that's done through teams. So until this year, we're not talking about this year much, but I can't remember the last time I've shot 2 weddings this year, and it's years since I shot a wedding on my own. But of course, now I'm shooting, because there's only 15 guests, I'm shooting on my own. I can't bring a team, you don't need a team. But the whole narrative is around high scale, solutions, which are all integrated. So we're all mic'd up. I started using mics in 2013. I had a big wedding in Monaco, and I had 7 of us in my team. It was really complex, oligarch, and I suddenly, the penny dropped. I was watching some of the top planners in their teams or production, and they're all mic'd up, and I was like, this makes perfect sense. And I realised it was as valuable as another lens in the kit bag. I'm like, camera, body, lens, card, batteries, headset. It was like that important. Because then it's sort of, I don't know, for me, it's just logistics that, I'm shooting the couple, and then the planner's like, where's John? We need to do this shot here, or this has happened, the dad wants to speak. And I don't know where John is, they're running around. It just looks, 1, you're running out of time, and 2, it looks awful. Like, John, John, we needed you the planner needs you. Can you ask her why? Why? Well, there's this. Can you get Rio to sort that out? Because I'm with the couple. Or Rio, can you come and shoot the couple while I sort this out? Suddenly you've saved 5 minutes, especially if you're in a big space. So it was all about, the whole narrative now is about high-end solutions and integrated teams and slick, and also luxury hotels, luxury venues, destinations, that kind of thing. So it could be normally it's 2 photographers, 3 photographers, sometimes 4 photographers, and
Yeah, so I've had weddings of 4 photographers. I'll talk to you why in a minute. And then videography, always 2, no less, and sometimes 4, you know. So you've got 8 in a team, you know, 1 doing drone and a camera work. And then you've got, you know, different videographers having different roles. And then logistically trying to sort that out, you know. So from a photographic point of view, why have 4 photographers for a wedding of 250 people? That seems excessive. So my point is, well, the budgets we're talking about here, I'm not worried about the money, you know. So I'm being paid 25,000 to shoot a wedding, and so I'm not thinking, I don't want to spend 400 quid on a photographer, and I'd rather actually pay high fees for photographers. I want the best, and normally they're my trained guys anyway. So you know, if I get someone new, I don't throw them into something like that. You know, it'll probably be 5 or 8 weddings that they would do as a kind of experience, introduction, just to see if they're fit, and they need to fit as well as a personality, as well as their work ethic, as well as their approach and stuff, you know. But, you know, I want to pay my team well, and so it's not, you know, so it's not about worrying about the money, it's about the solution. Having more photographers, especially if you're a documentary, helps, because, you know, I remember a few years ago, I shot this wedding, I had a big team, and there was missing stuff. And this is, I don't remember, 5-6 years ago. And I'm thinking 2014, 15. And I'm like, how did that happen? How did we miss that when we've got all of us here? And suddenly it struck me, it's an organisational thing. That, you know, we all go in, right guys, okay, I'm going to shoot the bride prep, you shoot the groom prep. And Jeremy, you just do whatever you want. You know, do your documentary because you're really good at that. And then, you know, okay, so and we just shoot it. And then when I afterwards go through it, I was like, oh my God, you know, they asked for shots of the table napkins that Grandma made, and I shot the table, but you know, or Jeremy shot the table, but I didn't mention it to him, and he didn't shoot the napkins or whatever, you know, or just like there's no shots of the kids. Why is there no photographs of the kids? There were 5 kids there. Who shot the kids? Well, I didn't know. I thought you did it. You know. So there's suddenly this realization is that we're all just going in, shooting it as if we're on our own, rather than me being overarching it, organising it. So, and then I thought about my skill set in my team, not me. So I know that as a face of the brand, I need to probably shoot prep, then be at the front of the ceremony, shoot couple portraits. Annoyingly, I shoot the groups because I just think it's a total waste of my talent to stand there pressing a button, you know. But they kind of want me to do that because I'm the face of the brand. And then I'm thinking, well, what else do we need to cover? We need to cover guests, we need to cover kids, we need to cover the room, we need to cover still life, you know. And to be a wedding photographer, I think actually it's the hardest job ever in photography. I really do, because you have to be excellent at all of everything. So, and luckily, because of my background, I think I've had those skills to do it right from the start. You know, so during a wedding, you're a room set photographer, without doubt, because you're shooting rooms, epic, huge rooms. You're also a still life photographer because you're shooting details. You're a portrait photographer. You're a fashion photographer. You need skills to shoot night photography. You're an event photographer. You're a food photographer, and you're a kid photographer. So suddenly you need all these skills and you can't, you know, you can't show weaknesses either. So it got to this point where I was like, right, Katie, you're really good at shooting kids. So I know this is going to sound weird, but you're shooting kids all day. She's like, really? That's amazing. I'm so pleased. You know, because she'd be like, wow, I don't have the pressure of worrying about anything else. I'm just going to photograph the kids. You know, Jeremy, you're amazing with your Leica. I said, I want you to just do reportage. Just go out arty. You know, because I don't think I've got space to be arty today. So I'm on the front line doing the basics. So I need to be true to the brand with the documentary, and you've got to get it for me. So you just do documentary. Okay, boss, you know, so he's like, documentary. Rio, okay, you shooting groom, and you're at the back for ceremony, but I also need you to shoot the room. I don't have time. As soon as we break ceremony, I've got to do groups, I've got to do couples, I've got no one to shoot the space. So I want you to shoot this. Here's the list. Make sure you cover that list. That's that, you know. So then, basically, there's nothing missed, you know. We've got 4 photographers, we've got thousands of photos. Okay, it takes a lot to go through, but you know, it's got to that point where we're not missing anything because of the way I've delegated and the way we've approached it, you know. And you need a big team. You need a big team for that.
So our Instagram handle is nice and easy. It's just instagram.com/MakingWeddingsWork, all one word. The biggest thing we're pushing is our Facebook community, where we want to grow, we want to have discussions outside of the podcast and as a result of the podcast. So maybe we have a guest on, we don't ask a question, we want you to be able to put that question forward and we'll go back to the guest and try and get answers for that, just to really create a thorough process and let everyone get the exact information that they want to help them build a better, stronger wedding business together. Our Facebook community group is also really easy to find. If you just search Making Weddings Work on Facebook, you'll get directed over there. When you request to join, there'll be 3 short answers that pop up just to make sure that you are a wedding supplier and that you will get value from the group once you submit them. Myself and Toby will then let you into the group, into the community, and you can post away anything you like. You can see the discussions that are going on there, you can see further information, and if you want to get something free from us right away, you can head on over to our actual website, which is makingweddingswork.co.uk, and you can download our free Get Paid What You're Worth pricing guide. That's totally free. You just enter your email and then we'll send it straight out to you. And that guide, basically, it's a shortened version of everything that I've talked about when I've spoke at wedding industry events and things like that. When we do consulting one-to-one, it's a topic that we touch on there. So it's just condensed down into a nice PDF for you to just take bite-sized chunks from, bite-sized notes from, and then you can implement those strategies right away and you can get higher paying clients just by changing these simple, quick things to do with your pricing strategy. Now, let's jump straight back into the pod with today's guest and finish our conversation.
Does your team work for you like on a freelance basis, or are they actually sort of employees? How do you structure that sort of thing?
Sadly, because of the situation, they're now redundant. But before this year, I had 2 full-time employees, including me, and the rest are freelancers. So I had about 5-6 freelancers. But these freelancers, I say freelancers, yes, but they're like family. The only difference is that they're not just employed, you know, and that's one because one of them wants to have some options open, you know, but he might earn 25 grand off me a year, you know, one freelancer. So, you know, they get fully supported, you know, and then if we have events and stuff, they're part of that, you know, or we're not inviting the freelancers, you know, to these events. No, they're all part of one family.
So what's the sort of background team like now, or what has it been like? Was it always yourself picking up emails? I think you mentioned a PA earlier. How and when did you bring them in, and are they still involved? And you know, what's going on? Yeah,
so I've had the PA. I still got the PA, and she does all my bookings. So that's another thing from James. He's like, John, he's like, why are you doing your bookings? Do you think that if you want to do something with Calvin Klein, give me a better, Bruce Russell. So he said, do you think if a bride wants to have a dress from Bruce Russell, they're going to send an email and Bruce is going to reply? It's like, no, you meet one of Bruce's star managers or whatever they call them, and you'll meet a princess of Dubai. You'll meet Bruce, but you're not going to get an email back from Bruce on day one or an inquiry. You know, it'll be Bruce will see you now. Bruce is available on this day. Come to the studio for the fitting, and then Bruce will be there. And hello, great to see you. You know, so this idea was, I'm like, oh my God, again the penny drop, which from James about luxury. And it's like, well, you know, John's availability, John's this, John's that, and then I step in later when we're close to, or whether they've already booked me, or if they want to have a call. Sometimes they want to call or meet before, and that's fine, you know. But so I've for I don't know, my goodness, 7 years I've had a PA doing that for me. And I remember once for Indigo, because we're doing 80 bookings and I'm doing them all. Imagine how many inquiries I've got if we had 80 bookings. So I might have 400 inquiries. And I remember I met this couple at a wedding, the bride at a wedding fair, and then she came to the Hackney studio and we were really getting close to booking, and it was a shoot in Paris, and she was French, and I thought this is going to be great. And just out of the blue, she just changed her mind and sent a message and an email, and I was driving, and it popped up, and I was at lights, and I clicked open, and it appeared, and it said, like, my dad wants to use a French photographer. I'm so sorry, I really connected to you guys, and I was like, what? What? And I remember it was like 2012 or 11, and I was like, well, your dad got that one wrong. Send. And I'm driving. Oh my God, what have I just done? What have I just done? You know, I don't even think that JN was there. John Nassari brand, I think it must have been 2010 or 9 actually, you know. And she went mad, and I was just apologetic. I was so sorry. I can't believe I said that. You know, who do you think you are? You know, I was like, so sorry. Like, and I was like, I need a PA.
Like, so can we touch on maybe pricing sort of strategy then? So you started with Indigo doing what, 2,000, and then JN was like 3-4 straight away, and then did something happen that you made like that big jump to, you know, doing those 5-figure weddings?
Yeah.
Or was that a slow process? It just went from 4 to 6 to 8 to 10 or whatever?
I remember networking in 2012-13 as JN, not Indigo at this point now, and I'd done a collaboration and I'd done a couple of other things. And I remember walking into an event, and I knew like 5 people, this was like 2013. And I remember these are the top people in the industry as well. And I remember thinking, I know about 5 people here. And then within 6 months, there was another event, and I knew there were 5 people I didn't know. And I remember thinking, and someone said, John, you're everywhere. And there was just this moment where I was shooting stuff, some style shoots that had some massive sort of recognition. I launched, 2014, I launched the 360 brand, and I hired a cinema and invited a load of planners and venues to this launch. So it was around 13 and 14. And then 14, I had Olympus Visionary. So I became appointed as Olympus ambassador for Olympus cameras. And also shot this wedding in Monaco for the oligarch, Russian oligarch. And it was stunning. John Legend played. And suddenly, and I was able to show some of that work. I was published in Grace Ormond for it. And she called me directly. She's like, John, this is amazing. My phone rang, it's Grace Ormond. I was like, wow, calling me from New York to say, I've just seen your work, and I've been getting so much photography over the years. I've never seen anything like this at a high-end level, you know. And it was just that moment of those things, my name being around, and it's just a culmination of a tipping point. And then I got PR as well in 2014, towards the end of the year for 2 years with Nicola from Proposed PR. And then at a point, it actually got too much. I remember someone said, John, 2015 is like, everywhere I turn, I'm seeing you. It's almost too much, you know. And then I took my PR back in, although she's helping me at the moment on something. But I took my PR back in, I think, in 2016. Because I felt actually that I'd done it. I'd got that point, you know. And sometimes you're banging people's head against the ground, against the wall about, you know, just step back a bit. And let it just grow from there naturally, you know.
And what did the PR? What did you think you needed that for? Was there a focus to that? Was there a particular part of the business that you thought? She'd helped me with the 360 because that was important to try and reach that out, and the invites and events and things like that. So she really helped me with that. And also I had a book published. So I had a project at the Mandarin in 2016. And I was backstage at the Mandarin for 10 months. Because of my project in 2011, I had this relationship with them, and it's really strong. And as an Olympus visionary, I was supported by Olympus, and it was their birthday in 2016, 80 years of Olympus cameras. So I went to Mandarin, and I went to Olympus and said, I'd like to do a project celebrating 80 years with 80 pictures. And they're like, sounds great, what have you got? I said, let me come back to you. So I rang the Mandarin and I said, look, I've got this idea. It's Olympus's birthday. I'd like to do a project where I photograph staff working in a hotel. We have an exhibition and a book. And
it's 80 photos to celebrate 80 years. They're like, oh my God, it's the best call I've had for so long. You know, the head of marketing and communications, and she's like, can you come in now and talk about it? I'm like, well, no, but we could do it maybe next week. So I made the meeting, and Olympus and I went in there and we flashed out this idea, and Olympus supported most of it, but actually Mandarin supported massive, because I was there for 10 months with a Mandarin badge, and I could wander around. I stayed the night, they'd feed me, you know, I was like a member of staff, you know, and I'd have my cameras, but it was all, you know, Olympus is like discreet, and that was the whole thing of this sort of, you couldn't do this with big cameras, walking around where Liam Neeson's walking around, or, you know, Morgan Freeman, you know, with the cameras, so you look like press. But, you know, if it's just tiny little cameras, these little things like that, and of course I look like a member of staff with my badge, you know, and I'm never photographing guests anyway, that, you know, the cameras allowed this to happen, this approach. And I basically spent 10 months at a hotel, we're staying there often, you know, maybe once a week, and photographing all the staff in all the departments, from personnel to finance to the senior management team, to the GM, to the people that load in stuff in the entrance and the basement, you know, to everyone, housekeeping, the front end, all the stuff that you'd expect, but all the stuff you don't know about. And you know, we did a project, we called it 80 at 80. It was a massive exhibition, and they hosted it and paid for everything. It's credible. Olympus paid for the book. Actually, Mandarin contributed to the book too, and then all the books went into the rooms. So if you stay in a suite, there's a book there now. And it's a celebration of Olympus and a celebration of the Mandarin. And this is what I was saying earlier. Why did I do that? Okay, Olympus did pay me a fee, but, you know, that's now on my Wikipedia page. That's now a published book. You know, that's registered on Amazon, you know, as a book published. You know, an exhibition and so on. So these things add to your value and your reputation, you know.
But recently you had quite a big one, which was one of your photos going up into space. Do you want to tell us a little bit of that? Because I think that's quite a unique achievement to have a photo in space.
That's crazy. So it's the Portraits of Humanity by British Journal of Photography. It was a competition, 2019. I entered it, and what struck me is it's just, you know, it's a bit like the National Portrait Competition, and it's, you know, like ordinary people in the world and stuff, and, you know, and that's what, you know, the kind of look they were looking for, just like about people. So I knew it didn't need to be advertising-y or slick, it just needed to be real, authentic, which is the kind of portrait I love anyway. And I'm always doing personal work, you know. I asked someone on the street the other day to take their picture, you know, give them my card. You know, whenever I see someone, I'm like, they're really arresting, I like that. Would you want to take a portrait? You know, take half an hour, no fees, they get a picture, I get my picture, and so on. And so I wanted to enter, and I entered about 8 pictures into the award in 2019, and I actually didn't know that I got in. So originally, it didn't say it was going to space, it's just an exhibition. And I knew it was going to be a book and an Actually, I didn't know about the book. I knew it was going to be an exhibition. And also, there was billboard things around town where it was displays, so I thought it would be on that. So anyway, I got an email in 2019 saying I was shortlisted, but the announcement of the winners was due. For some reason, it didn't suggest that I was in it. When it said shortlisted, I didn't realise that I was actually in already. And then I saw the winners, and it said these are the winners, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't get in. And then I left it. I didn't think about it. Didn't go to the exhibition. I was obviously in the exhibition. And then a friend of mine sent me a message. I'm in Waterstone, so I've just opened this book with one of your pictures. She sent me a photo. I was like, oh my God, this is like December last year. I was like, all right. So I realised I was a finalist, and I got in, but I didn't win, like top 3, but I got in the exhibition and the book. I was like, oh, amazing. So anyway, I forgot about it. And then 2020, they had another round of portraits. I didn't enter this year. And then just by chance, I got an email saying the first exhibition in space, it was a Tuesday a couple of weeks ago, watch live as it goes into space. And I was like, oh, these are the guys that did the Humanity that I entered. And I was thinking, oh, it's 2020, it's this year's finalist. That's really cool. So I said to a friend of mine, and he was with me, he's a photographer, one of my team actually, and he's like, I was like, look at that. And he said, oh, wouldn't it be amazing to be in that? And we were going to cinema anyway, so we were like, oh, you know, let's not watch. It was 7 o'clock launch, and we're like, we're going to cinema. So I just thought, so we went to cinema, came back, and then about 11 o'clock, I was like, oh, we can rewatch it, you know, the video of it. And I started clicking it, And I was like, my God, look at that, look at it. And then my picture came up. And we were like, wouldn't it be amazing if we were in, yeah. Because I said the moment before, wouldn't it be amazing to be one of these people? 400 pictures, first exhibition in space. And then also they were compressing the images into binary code, and they had an antenna sending it outwards. And like these scientists in the film were saying that we're sending the pictures out, so if intelligent life are able to like receive them and reconstruct it, they could get a sense of what life's like on humanity through these photos. And I think it's the first time they've ever done anything like that. And it was just to suddenly see it like that, complete and surprise, was a shock. And then a massive honour that just this idea that my picture is now somewhere in space going on long after I die, and it's going to just carry on going, you know, and might be seen by someone.
Oh, well, congratulations, because that's just, you know, that's like a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. I wanted to quickly mention, because obviously we said we came to your event when you launched a book and everything, and it seems like networking is like a big part of your business.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you attend like quite a few events around like the town, like you mentioned. So how important has that been, like growing your business, and how important is that still? You think networking is like a key thing?
Oh, it's massive. Yeah. I mean, when I do my training and about how to supercharge your wedding photography business, you know, I said, you know, the journey of our talk today is the journey of my course, which is, you know, you're starting out. Okay, so Google Ads is good to start with, but that needs to stop once you get some bookings. It's all about updating. I've not said this, but any photographers out there, for me, how do you escalate? How do you move fast? You do that by updating your work. So I think in the early years, I could have got to where I've done quicker if I'd done what I teach now, which is to not sit on your books. As you grow, as you do more, you do 30, I did 13, 21, 35, 40, something like this, 50, 60. So by year 3 or 4, I'd done nearly 200 weddings, 150 weddings. But I still had the same book from year 1. And I was like, oh, I don't want to spend I don't want to spend 500 quid on another album. This is working, you know. But that was a mistake. What I should have done is, every year, I was like, right, what was the best 3 weddings of this year? I'm going to throw away those other, but I'll just put them in archive, don't throw them away. And then have 3 new albums made, and these are my new samples that I show at wedding fairs and couples and so on. And then also, your focus of where you want to go is focused, because instead I've got, you know, I had a barn wedding and a manor house and a hotel or something like that. And I had, you know, I thought, well, I've got a Jewish one and an Asian one. And so, you know, but it was scattered. There was no strategy. So when I realised this, I was like, right, so I need a brilliant Jewish wedding, and I need a brilliant, you know, and I actually, what's my brand here? It's about luxury, it's about high-end destinations. So I love that wedding in that barn, but that's not luxury. So I'm not showing it, and it's not going on my website. So there's nothing wrong with the wedding or the job, but I just thought I'm going to focus a message, and I call it like, and I've, you know, it's actually Terry Lewis. I'm just giving an advert for Terry Lewis. He's a marketing strategist in the wedding industry. He's excellent. And I had some consultation with him. It was about sort of refining your message, you know. And I think I had mixed messages going on until I refined it to what I say my ideal client is, so that when they look at my work, they see themselves presented back. So the whole message of my strategy is about my ideal client, and within that are things. So I don't do wedding fairs anymore because they won't go to wedding fairs. So it's about networking. It's about planners, it's about venues, and it's about maintaining these passion projects to maintain your profile. And that's my strategy now.
You've obviously sweated, grafted for so many years at this now to get to the stage you're at. For somebody just starting out in this, or maybe they've been established 1 year, 18 months or something, what would be your sort of top tip for them? Where should they be focusing their efforts? On their craft or on the business side of things, or keeping some sort of combo approach?
I'm assuming that the craft's there. I know you get better every time, of course. And I don't think doing I've never done a photography kind of, here's how to take a picture. Let me rephrase this. Yeah, I'm trying to think what I think if you're starting out in your early career, first couple of years, I think I think you need to be a certain level. If you're going to do this as a business, you can't be thinking, oh, I need to improve my lighting. You need to be able to shoot. You need to be technically strong anyway, so I'm assuming there's a level there. Of course, it could be refined and improved and stuff. And I do photographic workshops, and I have photographers around me, and I show my lighting setups. But, you know, it's not people like, how do you do that? And writing down notes. They're just like, that's clever. That's an idea. And they could go and do it straight away. So they've already should have skills. So I don't think the development should be crafting. It should be marketing. I think that's where early career photographers, and that is networking. And early career, I think, is something SEOs for early career people. You can't just jump into high end. You know, a couple of people have done it. You know, I know lots of photographers that are thinking, well, I'm not ready for that yet, and they're doing the wedding fairs. And so I think it's, you know, focus on your strategy, bookings, improving your portfolio, replacing your existing albums, getting rid of them, improving it, focusing where you want to go, and growing it that way. That would be my advice to early career. I do have a training program, but that's basically focused towards photographers, early career. It's 10 units. It's on my website, how to supercharge your business, or the 10 steps to wedding photography success.
Okay, well, that's been fantastic. I've just kind of been sitting here, like, absorbing things, you know, rather than going through our question list and stuff. So that's been really good for me to just sit and hear the full story. You know, obviously we've known you for a bit and things like that, but we've never actually really, you know, got to know the backstory and the detail and stuff. So that was really interesting to find out. So yeah, just thanks very much for your time, and like really appreciate your answers, but also the honesty that you gave them with and stuff. And I think a lot of people will get a lot of value from that. I have definitely already. So I'm sure, you know, you're impacting, you know, other photographers, other wedding professionals, businesses in such a positive way, just from, you know, sharing your experience and stuff. So yeah, thanks very much for jumping on with us.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.